All right, what's going on? Doug Cunnington here. This is the Doug Show Live, and I'm thrilled to bring a special guest on, Matt Giovanisci, my friend that drinks beer. He brews more than I do. He even has a website about beer, and we're going to talk about his lifestyle manifesto today. We're going to field some questions towards the end, but I'll bring Matt on right now if I can do it properly. And I think you're on. Matt, what's up?
What's up? How are you?
I think people could hear me. So
All right. Can you hear me?
yes, I can. I
All right.
can. Okay, we're good to go. There's always a little
Sweet.
clunkiness at the very beginning here. So, Matt, how's it going today? And what's new in your life?
What is new in my life? I don't know. I have a new house. That's been like everything. Got a couch finally. Thanksgiving just happened. It was only like my brother and one other person, and kind of just focusing on swim university, brew cabin, money lab, like my brands. But like, what did I just do? I just did something. Oh, I just released a course. So that was like, I was like, I did something that was like pretty
Pretty
long and
big.
and time consuming. So yeah, I just did a YouTube course for Money Lab. So that was
Right
fun.
on. Well, it's cool to see that come out. I love courses myself, and we're going to dig into a bunch of stuff today. And I know some people, it takes a few minutes for folks to jump on live, but for the people that don't know you at all, what do you do? And a little background. So you mentioned a couple brands that you're a part of, but yeah, what are you all about?
I guess what I do, like my actual job, is I own a site called Swim University, and I teach people how to take care of their pools and hot tubs through blog posts, videos. We have a YouTube channel. We do have a podcast too, but it's kind of short. It's just got one series podcast and it's done. Yeah, so we're just kind of this like little media company, just me and Steph and one other person, and so university pretty much makes the bulk of the money, and then we have Money Lab, which is sort of the byproduct of everything. So I've built multiple brands over the years. The ones that I have currently are Swim University, Money Lab, and Brew Cabin, which you mentioned. 2019 was what happened. It just like we were there was a bunch of like turning points for Swim University, but you know, it's at one point we were trying to make this like massive media company where I had like a ton of writers and we you know we were trying to put out a lot of content and trying to like really make a big swimming pool company. And then it became like you start to learn things about yourself as a business owner. Like I tend to be a creative person. I like being in my little bubble and I like creating things that are just that are good. Like I put a lot of pride into my work. But when you're forced to manage other people to crank out stuff that is fine and it's good, I just lost that sense of like this isn't mine anymore. This is everyone's, and we're all collectively like want this thing to succeed, which is great. But I didn't have the same compassion and care for it that I used to. And then like so I had talked to my editor in chief about it, and she agreed, and we sort of like it was just me and her kind of doing the like she was doing all the writing, and we kind of let go of everybody else because it was like I think the two of us can really take this thing to the next level. Meaning like, we wanted to be self-sufficient, we wanted to stand the test of time. What I was trying to do always was sort of shift away from affiliate marketing, not in the sense that I'm giving it up, but to sort of like make sure that I have I had three revenue streams when I started Swim University, and it was affiliate marketing, it was sponsorships, like in the form of banner ads and those things, but like direct sales, so I would sell them, and then products. But we only had one product at the time, and it was an ebook, and it was like $19, and I knew that was, and it was selling relatively well, but I knew that that's really where I wanted to go. And what I hated doing was sponsorships. I absolutely hated selling sponsorships. And I tried to hire people to do it for me, and that wasn't working. And so I ended up just saying like no to it. I'm like, we're just not going to be this type of website. And plus, it felt better because then it truly is an unbiased like resource, and there's no like I didn't have to write content because a publisher or because a manufacturer who's a sponsor is like, you really should have a post on this product, which is their product. And I'm like, well, I don't really need to. And so like I just kind of said no to that. But we lost money because were like, let's just cut that out. And then affiliate marketing was doing really well, but I was always fearful of it because it's, especially with Amazon, because it's like, well, if Amazon has one board meeting that you're not a part of, which they did twice in the last like 3 years, yeah, you kind of like lose money as a business. So it's not a good place to like stake your business on. And so like during all that time, I was working on like building my own products and like building up the website to get, and deleting a lot of content that I thought was good because it was getting us traffic, but it wasn't getting us sales because, it just didn't fit the thing that we were trying to sell. And to kind of explain that a little bit further, I wrote a post on how to properly have sex in a hot tub because it was a very popular keyword if you look it up for pretty obvious reasons. And so
image search, turn that on.
Image search, right, exactly. So but then I was like, okay, we ranked number 1 for it, like over Cosmopolitan, which is like exactly what I wanted. Unfortunately, literally anyone can have sex in a hot tub. You don't actually have to own one. And so like the people that were visiting that page weren't necessarily buying the products we were selling because we weren't selling like waterproof condoms, for example. So it was like, that was a moment where I was like, I have this really huge article that brings in a lot of traffic, but it doesn't bring in any money. So I'm just going to delete it. And when I started deleting content and like, I, kind of saying like, what is it that Swim University does, and getting very clear on like, who are we? What is our purpose here? And what are we trying to do? And it's like, okay, we are a website that helps people take care of their pools and hot tubs. So you better own a pool or a hot tub, or else why the hell would you be on Swim University? And then if you do own a pool and a hot tub, then the products that we sell make sense to you. You're a perfect fit. It took a lot of just like editing, optimizing, building of products. And eventually this year, because of Amazon taking away everyone's, commissions, we were able to surpass the amount of money we make with our products over affiliate marketing. It's always been 70% comes from affiliate marketing, 30% comes from our products. This year, it actually flipped. It was 70% came from our products, 30% from Amazon, and we made more than we did the year before. So that was in 2020, but all the work was really done in 2018, 2019 to kind of gear up to this moment. 2019 specifically is when we moved. We were selling everything on our website. I had developed our own like storefront to sell using a bunch of like plugins, specifically easy digital downloads, and it was working. But then I'm always trying to simplify my processes all the time. And somebody turned me on to Podia, and I started using that. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, this is so much easier. This is really up my alley. I started using it, and I saw sales go up simply from switching over because it just became easier for people to buy, and everything just became more clear. And so that was in mid 2019. I did that, August of 2019. And so that set up the groundwork for 2020 being an absolutely like killer year for product sales because like the pieces were in place.
Got it. And I love bringing you on because I could ask a small question and then you'll just talk for a while and I could let
20
my
minutes,
voice rest. So you're drinking a beer over there. People listening can't see that, but you're drinking a beer, and I grabbed a beer even though it's around lunchtime here. So cheers. Yeah, I'm having a little Pilsner. What are you drinking?
I'm also drinking I'm drinking a Pilsner. I'm drinking a beer shot, slow pour Pils.
And I have a left hand. I have it in a koozie here, so I don't want to spill it everywhere. It is a left hand. What is it? Oh no, I grabbed the Dunkel.
You got a Dunkel.
Yeah. I was like, that doesn't taste like a Pilsner. So I got a Dunkel from their test kitchen.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I was like, I don't even know they made one of those.
Yeah, it's in like the bigger 12 pack like variety deal.
Oh,
so
I see.
That's where I got it.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. So quick note, I do need to give a shout out to a sponsor, Ezoic, and their site speed accelerator. So if you haven't checked it out, it will help your site load faster. I do recommend you use their DNS integration over the WordPress plugin integration. You just get a little more robust setup, so it loads faster. And Matt, have you used Ezoic in the past or anything like that?
I have not.
Okay. And I was going to say that sex in the hot tub thing that you were talking about, bringing in
Would
all
have been
that
good.
traffic, it would have been perfect because you would have the right
Yes.
ads showing. And that's the kind of thing that Ezoic can do is show the right ads to the right people and optimize, A/B test, do all the things you need to do to get it done. So
Right.
thanks to Ezoic. And while we're kind of taking a break, I'm going to give a shout out to some of the people in the chat, like Sverin, who came early, Adrian, who is manning the chat, making sure it's in order. We have Vicky, we got Griff, David, some of the usual suspects, Vicky, Stewart, and Severin. It's
Yep.
one of those with like SV, so it's like there's two consonants, no vowel in there. He said Matt missed out on the opportunity to sell Swim U condoms. So maybe next time. Did you guys talk about that?
You could use them as water balloons. I could have had like swim U condoms that are also water balloons, so it would have worked.
Yeah, you could always go back to it. I mean, I don't know if I would want to use or market white label condoms, but I'm sure they're out there. Check it out, I guess. Maybe
I'm sure
Alibaba.
they are.
I don't know.
Yeah.
All right,
Luby.
let's swing back to the lifestyle business manifesto. So basically, you worked really hard in 2019. Business grew like crazy. You were setting yourself up for 2020 with
Mhm.
digital products. It put you in a good spot to pivot a little bit when Amazon changed the commission rate in April. But
Yeah.
it sounds like you didn't want to be as busy. So let's talk about the manifesto and what the lifestyle business means to you, and like how do you define it if some person hasn't heard this term before? What's a lifestyle business?
It's a business that allows you to fuck. Oh, sorry. Can I say that?
Yeah, yeah. We
Allows
don't
you
run
to.
ads. Yeah.
All right. So it allows you to screw off and not have to worry every waking minute. So I'm not saying that you should do that all the time, but like it you can. So if I wanted to take a vacation right now, like tomorrow, my vacation starts and it goes from now until the end of December. I can safely do that because the business has been set up so that it allows me to have any lifestyle that I choose to have, which means it's just more flexibility, I guess. It's flexibility, freedom, and less stress just in general. So I don't think it necessarily means like, oh, you can have like an awesome lifestyle, because you can certainly have a lifestyle business and like be stressed out constantly with like other, things in life. I just think that if your business is not a stress factor, you're not reliant on clients and bosses and people like demanding of your time and attention all the time, and like, I have to be on this call at X time, I have to do this. Like, you can sort of go with the flow and be whatever. And so like for the longest time, and even like 2018 when I started hiring people, it was still a lifestyle business, but it was slowly becoming like, well, most of this money that I was spending was going towards other people to support the business, as opposed to, being able to like shape the business so that one person or two people who the other person I live with could manage the business and actively like grow the business, and then take all of that money, mostly like the profit, for ourselves and our lifestyle. And I'm not saying like I'm buying a helicopter. It's like I'm not trying to like live a lavish lifestyle. It's 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 the reason to even start. And I learned this from a book called Profit First, and this is where I started like this sort of journey, where the idea is like, why do you have a business? Like, what is the purpose of having your own business? It's to make money for yourself, right? It's otherwise like, what's your goal? And now people certainly have goals to like, they want to, I don't know, they want to start a business because they just like to see things grow. They want to feel ego, pride, whatever those things are that drive people. But for me, it was freedom. It was like not having to answer to a boss, not having to manage 50 people, and not having to like check in, clock out, all of those things. There are different types of businesses and different types of lifestyles. And I think it also, you can have a lifestyle business that's brick and mortar. It's really just on your mindset. I think as a great example of this, there's a guy in Longmont who has a store called the Bald Brewer. And every time I go to the store, it's just him. He owns the building and he runs this like homebrew store. And I would consider that a lifestyle business where he's basically like he started a business in a thing that he is actively interested in, and he owns a brick and mortar store selling things that he's actually interested in, and he has clients that he actually likes. So and he can set his own hours because it doesn't matter, and he has the freedom. I know he just like went on vacation recently, so he has the freedom to be like, hey, I'm going to go on vacation, the store might be closed or somebody's going to run it for a week. It's really it's more of a mindset and than it is a practice, I think, or a type of business. It's more of a how you feel about your business, and like the decision. It definitely goes into the decision factors of like what you do.
Got it. And Bald Brewer, that's where I get my ingredients as
Same.
well.
Yeah.
I think Mark's his name. Good dude. So if
Yeah.
you're in
Yeah.
Longmont, you can check it out. But
Yeah.
I know there was another brew shop that actually had like a tap room in there that went out of
Yeah.
business. It's over by the Sam's. Did you ever go to that one?
I used to drive from Boulder to it because it was the nicest store ever. It was the Brumented was called. It was like the Walmart
That's right.
of like homebrew shops. It was so nice, but I think that's ultimately it's not a lifestyle business. Like you were trying to build like a legit hardcore business in something that is like, oh, you overspent. I think, and I don't know if that's actually what happened to them, but it certainly feels like when you kind of start something with like no grassroots effort, but you put a lot of money into it, it's like it's kind of it's really a gamble. But if you're just putting time and effort into something with very, very little money, it becomes less of a gamble. It becomes more of like a skill set and like a development thing, and you can. And it may not be like the fastest growing overnight success that you want it to be, which for Swim University, it took 10 years for me to make an actual living off of. For me to make like 40 grand a year on it, that was like revenue, not what I was actually pulling in for myself. It took 10 years, arguably like 7 years of like bad work and not really trying as hard as I should have. And then 3 years of like very focused, intent work with a foundation that was already there, and then doing everything myself, like not hiring out for anything. And that was in a lot of those years was learning website design and learning code and learning how to write and learning how to edit videos and learning how to do graphic design and using these different tools. Like most of those years were just spent learning the skills that I now have to, basically build a site with my eyes closed, and write a blog post with my eyes closed. Not really, but
You know
you
where
get the
the
point.
keys are, so you could type with your eyes
Yeah,
closed.
I could.
So,
Yeah,
and I think I'm going to tie a couple of these together. So, yeah, you got it exactly with Brewmented. For people that most people don't know, Brewmented. So this was basically a shop. It could be any shop. They got prime real estate that was very
mm-hmm.
expensive. They built out way more than they needed, and there potentially was a customer base, but maybe they didn't have the runway capital wise or effort wise
Yeah,
to just stick around for a long time. And then Mark at Bald Brewer, he's been there for 10 years. Like you said, he owns the building. He keeps it lean. I chatted with him one time and he said that he had a couple people help him out part-time a little bit at one point, but people weren't that great. And he's like, you know what? I'm just going to do what I need to do to run this. And that, like you said, that's like a lifestyle business, right?
yeah,
Basically you're building it to have flexibility that you want to have. And I
yeah,
think that's like the highlight, whatever you deem flexibility as, right?
yeah. I mean, just the ability to like not work today. Like I don't want to work today, and you don't have to. It's not going to be. You're not going to get fired. It's not going to be the end of the world. Your business is not going to like go into the ground. But at the same, I don't think it's just that, because there are businesses like you could be a freelancer who does client work, and you can choose how many clients to get. You can choose to overwork yourself, or you can choose to work on just enough clients to like pay for like a much more relaxed lifestyle. And I think it's really, again, a mindset more than it is a discipline. It's like, because I think it can apply to many types of businesses. It's just like, how do you treat it? How many are you, it's really like kind of, it could be lean. It could like they could have some overlap. I tend to think that a lot, because I also wrote an article, and I think it was last year or the year before, called the Lean Business Machine, or like the something like that. Lean Mean Business Machine, I think it's called. And the whole idea was like, that was when I started down this road of like, we are going to eliminate everything that does not seem necessary to the success of this business. And that meant like looking at every little tiny piece of content we were creating and look at everything we were spending money on, and, you know, using the profit first model, which is essentially the idea that you could, any money that you get, it's very similar to like pay yourself first. It's the same exact principle for personal finance as it is for business. The idea being like, if you make, you know, $1,000 a month, you take 10, 15 or whatever percentage you decide, and you set that aside, and that is the profit. The business profited that money. The rest of it, you have to allocate. Now you only have like, say, 90% left, and that 90% better pay for you to like exist and live in the world, and operating expenses. And so like, so that extra 10% never gets touched, and it builds up over time. And then every quarter you take half of that 10% that you've built up in those 3 months, and you give it to yourself as like, I own a business, I make that money, that's my money. And so you get like these like quarterly bonuses for being disciplined in doing that. And so, yeah, it just became very clear to me. It's like, we can operate Swim University with 2 people, like really easily. And I could do it with 1 person if that was the only thing I did. Like if Swim University was my only business and that was my only job to like make YouTube videos and write articles, I could do it myself. But because I have Money Lab and Brew Cabin, we need some help. And that's why we have 1 person that's full-time doing all the video content for Swim University, and then just general help wherever stuff is needed. And then I have a assistant that helps with like customer service stuff for Swim University. So, and then also a light SEO stuff for Swim University as well.
Got it. Originally, or at least at the height, you had like 6 people working on all facets of the business. Is that right? Including yourself and
yeah,
stuff?
it was me. Michelle was my editor-in-chief. Then we had 3 writers. I had a graphic designer. I had a video editor. I had an assistant, a lawyer on retainer. I have an accountant on retainer. Yeah, that's quite a few people, you know. And yeah, we slowly, like, things were doing fine, like everything was working, but the problem was we were making good money, but all of that money was going to running the business, you know. So like I was getting a salary, but it was small. Like I was paying myself the same amount of money I was paying other people in my business, right? So it was like, and then when I read Profit First, they're like, well, you own the business, like you should be making the most money. And it I don't know, it always felt wrong. But I was like, well, if I'm doing the work, then yes, I do deserve, you know, I don't deserve money just because I invented the thing, right? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. I was gonna
I
say,
mean, that's
what were
not
you doing
capitalism.
before? Yeah, because
I was doing work. Yeah, you know, I was working on Money Lab and Brew Cabin and other things, and other projects like software projects and stuff, while like everyone else was taking care of Swim University as my brand. But like Swim University was everything. Like that's where all the money was coming in from. And I just like had to realize like I should probably be more involved in the thing that's like paying for my entire life, you know. Like I ended up going back to doing that, and that's, I feel much better in that position because it's my baby. It's the thing I invented, and I want to work on it, and I want to feel like the work that I put in, I'm getting paid for that work. And I don't like the idea of like being a CEO and making all this money while everyone else is doing all the actual work, and then I'm just getting paid more than that. That feels, I don't know, it feels wrong to me. I know that's capitalism, but I
was gonna say, it sounds like socialism is what you're aiming for. But
yeah, that's
I don't know.
Maybe. It's like it's just a moral thing. And so we ended up like getting really lean, where it was just like me and Michelle, and that Steph was part of it. And then Michelle decided that she wanted to do her own thing and start her own business and like be her own entrepreneur. And I was like, great. So she went and did that, and I supported her through all of that and still do. And at that moment, that was the decision point. It was like, do we hire someone to take her place, or do I go back into that position and get really lean with my business? And then what's the like, what do I have to do every day? You know, it's like, okay, well, if I write a blog post every week on Swim University, is that such a terrible job that I can't do it? You know what I mean? No, it's absolutely not. I mean, I can certainly do it, and I actually like doing it. And so I've kind of committed to this idea that like, what's a good job? You know? And yeah, I can own my own business and I can have this ego and puff up my chest and all that stuff, but it's like it's still a job. And so what do I want to do? Writing blog posts about swimming pools is not that bad. And I can certainly do that, and I'm not really sick of it. And so that's what I want to do. And I want to create. I want to create things. I like doing it. And I don't need to start any more businesses. I'm done. I can just, sit back, nurture and take care of and build this like thing that I've spent my like most of my adult life doing, and be happy about that. And that's like and just that sounds like a great life.
One thing I want to point out, because I think some people are like, oh, if I had the ability to hire staff, that would be fantastic. I would love to have a team. And for me personally, I really don't want to have a team because they
Yeah.
rely on you for what they're going to do and the direction of the company. So if you have that weight on your shoulder, it's stressful. And then you're also thinking, hey, I have to keep making this amount of money to pay them and to pay myself, profit first. So it's very stressful. And did you find that was part of the stress of having the staff? And maybe when Michelle was saying, hey, I'm ready to do my own thing, you were like, okay, this is kind of a chance to reset.
No, I never felt stressed having a staff. I learned very early on that when I hired people that I really related to, like the way I found Michelle was very unique. I created an online application that really didn't ask any questions about are you good at editing words. It was, do you have the same taste as me? So it was like questions like, send me a video that you think will make me laugh because it made you laugh. Send me an article that you think is like the best thing that's ever been created on the internet. Just so if I saw it and thought the same thing, then we are aligned as people. And so like if I believe something, you probably believe something, and like we have good taste in content. And so like editing and all that stuff can be taught, and I can like send them articles and books and stuff, and we can build them up and whatever. I just so happened that Michelle came from a SEO background, and she was a great writer, but then we also have the exact same taste in pretty much everything. And I hired her immediately, and almost immediately within like 4 months, like once she understood the swimming pool industry, like what we were actually, because like the writing part she never had a problem with. It was like pools. I don't, like I don't own one or whatever. Once she got through that phase, it was like, oh, I can leave you alone because and then like, what happened was we started hiring people, and I hired a at one point I hired a COO, so somebody to like take my place and like run everything so I could go do other shit. And it turned out to be a mess because Michelle herself was a boss. She was already like capable of that role, and I had put somebody in above her, and it just didn't work. And it became like it was like a teaching moment, because I was like, oh, this is somebody I can trust and rely on, and she can just do her own thing. And so it wasn't stressful, and we had honest conversations. Like we would jump on, we really never talked all the time. Like we never had a weekly stand-up meeting or even a monthly stand-up meeting. It was like every quarter I'd be like, are you okay? Are things going well? Are you happy? Like what's going on in your life? And if she was like, this is great, this is the best job I ever had, then she'll do what she's supposed to do because she wants to. And that's the best kind of, the best kind of person to work for, to work with. And so that was, I mean, she wasn't cheap. She's not like I didn't hire somebody overseas and like, some big VA firm or whatever. I invested in someone who could be like I wanted to invest in a clone of me, and I did that. And the great and unfortunate part of it was that she is a clone, like we are the same type of person. And so she went and did her own thing, of course, and I never expected her to stay with me. I expected her to do this. And when she did it, at the moment, I was like, well, I could hire another person, or I could just, at that point, I was letting go of a lot of these other projects that I had hired her originally so that I can go work on. And on all of those projects, none of them really fell through, but I just was like, not for me. And I just like Swim University. I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of Money Lab. I like being there. I'm very passionate about homebrewing, and I want it to be more involved with that site. And I was like, I have these assets, and here I am trying to build more and more assets. I should just kind of like work on these things. And then it was a moment where I had to decide it, but no, to basically answer your question in the longest way possible, I don't like managing people. I don't like looking over someone's shoulder, making sure they're doing the things that I want. I'd rather just empower somebody, let them do their thing, let them tell me what they want to do, and then go for it. So I had a good managerial approach, but I still didn't like having the stress of them existing and the business, I don't know. No. To answer your question, no.
It didn't stress you out. Okay.
It didn't stress me out, no.
Yeah.
But having a lot of people did, because it's a lot of money out the door. So you're operating at like razor thin margins at that point, and I'm like, I want a bigger cushion, in case like shit does go down.
Yeah. And I think, one thing is just your working style and your managing style. And my managing style is much different than yours and what you just described. That sounds crazy to me, I'll be honest with you, Matt. But
right.
Because I think you said you wanted to hire someone and let them tell you what they wanted to work on. That just sounds
all the
crazy
time
to me. Yeah. So
anyway. Well, if you hire a clone, then you have the same thought. So you're like, yeah, do that. Do that.
Right.
So and I don't want to call her a clone of me. She's her own person. We were we were similar types of people. Yeah. And when she had I would go to her and say like, hey, this company wants to advertise on this blog post. What do you think we should do? And she's like, no, we're not doing that. And here's why. Here's what we stand for, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yes, that. Yep. You're right. I'm out. It's like, that's the best.
The other part of the equation is it's a little different when you're hiring someone as perhaps like staff augmentation or something like that versus like partnerships. But when you have someone that has the same skills and outlook as you, for me personally, I'm like, you have a blind spot. I'm like, if I want to partner with someone, I'm like picking someone with the different skills than me to complement each other versus like, all right, we got two duplicate people. But I know it's more complex than that. So
I know what you mean, though. Yeah.
So quick note: we do have another sponsor. So I'm going to go, and I do have a new sponsor. One Little Web, and it's let me pull up my read here. It's a link building company, Matt. So people can still hear you, but they can't see you. So this link building company is a bespoke agency, and they don't use link farms, they don't use private blog networks, and they outreach on your behalf, and you actually get to pick the sites before proceeding with a link placement. Are you much of a link builder, Matt?
Nope.
No, not at all. So you've ever done guest posting or whatever?
No.
You call yourself an SEO. Okay, so back to One Little Web. They have two different outreach plans. One is domain authority based and the other one is traffic based. So they're getting some organic traffic from Google, and you can pick based on your requirements. Now, I arranged a special deal where you order a DA 50 plus guest post and you'll get a DA 40 free of charge with it. So it's like 2 guest posts for the price of 1. And they guarantee for both of those sites a minimum of 5,000 visitors per month. So you're getting some traffic. There is a link in the description, or you can go to onelittleweb.com/Doug, DOUG. That's my name. And just a quick recap, that deal is very clearly laid out, but you get a DA 50 post, DR or DA. My copy is goofed up here. I'm going to have to talk to the boys. So basically, it's higher authority, 50 and 40, and 2 for the price of 1. Check it out. Thanks, One Little Web, for the sponsorship here. Much appreciated. So you don't do any link building, Matt, you're saying?
No, I just had a conversation about this the other day, and I actually stumbled on this tactic that I didn't even realize I was doing. So Money Lab, for example, has a lot of backlinks that I have done zero outreach. I didn't do anything to build them. What I did was, and I didn't know I was doing this. It wasn't like I set out to do this type of content for this type of result. But the byproduct of writing for your peers, like you bring up the lifestyle business post, like that was written for you. That was written for, people that I consider equals in this industry. It wasn't written for everyone. And so when I did that and I spent, weeks on that post because I wanted everyone to feel something, I got text messages from people, that I'm friends with in real life who were just like, this post was amazing. Well, it turns out like you guys all have websites. So everyone's linking to it, everyone's posting on Reddit and stuff. And with that mindset, because that's kind of the same mindset that I want to have with Brew Cabin, where I'm writing to the people who homebrew, who take it as seriously as I do. And what's great about that mindset is that it's great for people who are just starting out too, because they're getting like a very professional viewpoint of something that they can aspire to. And so I feel like when I do that, I want other homebrewers who have sites to go like, he's the guy to follow. Like, whoa, what an amazing like viewpoint. What a interesting, because I'm tailoring it to them. And so what's interesting is that it just turns out to be a great way to build links, because without trying all that hard, I guess.
Yeah, and I think, well, this make money online space is weird, and I gotta say, I mean, you can't discount the stuff that you've done, Matt. So you got Money Lab, you've been, featured all over the place talking about Swim U, so that's pretty popular, and Listen Money Matters, which, I mean, let's talk about this too, because this was all part of the post, which if people want to dig into it, there's a link in the show notes in the description here. So you had a lot of projects going on. You had the multiple sites, you had some staff, you were part of a SaaS product called Lasso, which we've talked about before. You also had 2 podcasts that you were a part of. So what's going on with the podcast right now?
They're both on permanent hiatus. So, and they both shut down right before, all the protests that happened in, I think, June. We didn't shut them down because of that. We shut them down before that for other reasons, but I was actually glad to be not a white guy talking about money at the time. And what happened was we were just looking at the business. Like, I love broadcasting. I have professional broadcasting equipment. I've been doing it my whole life. I have a passion for it. I love, and when I say broadcasting, I mean like radio. I would love to do, if I knew anything, like I love jazz music, but I'm not like a jazz head. Like I don't know like artists and stuff. I just like the music. And I listen to Kuvo Jazz as like my only radio station. And I would love to be like a DJ on Kuvo Jazz. Like that would be so much fun to me and so relaxing. Just be on mic, talk about jazz music, like having to like control the board. It's so cool. And so like podcasting I love podcasting. It's the same thing, except you don't have to worry about fumbling because you're not live. And we did it for so many years. I mean, Listen Money Matters has been running for like 8-9 years or something like that. I think 2013 we started, so 7 years. We got to a point where, Listen Money Matters made decent money, but it wasn't making a ton of money. And the reason why is because we were very bad at sponsorships. And I think this is a theme in my life. I am not good working with companies. Like I don't like having people tell me what I can and can't do, or like having to negotiate what I can and can't say. Like if I like you and you like me and there's a mutual partnership and you trust me, then yeah, we can have a discussion. But then it's like I have to get invoices from you, and it's like, did I do what I was supposed to do? It feels like there's just a tether that I don't like. And so it was really difficult to do that at Listen Money Matters. And at Money Lab, I was selling my own products, so I was doing my own ads for my own thing, which is really good. And I had some sponsors. I had Ahrefs. I have other sponsors as well. And so like it was fine. But when you looked at how much effort, like every week we're putting out a show and we have to like plan the episode, record it. There was a lot of effort that went into making an episode. And when you look at the return on investment, like the return on time with that, as compared to say putting out a YouTube video, which ultimately was harder to do and had more time, but the results were the results are like exponentially better. So for me, it just felt like, I don't know, it kind of just died. And obviously with COVID, like people weren't commuting and going to the gym as much. And so like listenership just kind of faded away. And it's weird because there's a special connection, and I miss that part of like, people are like, where is it? What's happening? And I'm like, look, I've gone on record to say what happened, which is basically like, we looked at the numbers, like this isn't lucrative for us. And this is like, it's really difficult to do this show. And we just not dedicating enough time to it. We're not owning this as our platform. And it's always a secondary thing. And so if we had to choose between doubling down on a podcast or doubling down on a video, episodes on video, or even a podcast on video, that's where we felt that our efforts would be more rewarded for the time. So although we didn't do that because that's also hard, and we were just like, and then because of Lasso and working on that, it just became like, putting out content was so difficult because we were so busy on the product itself and building it. And ultimately, like, everything just kind of like unraveled and fell apart. And we just looked at it and said, like, are we okay with shutting these down? Are we going to lose any money? No. And so we just kind of went with it.
Gotcha. And I mean, it's really tough to put an ROI on, I think, even YouTube and podcasts. Yeah. It's really hard to trace back because I'm putting out content on 3 different platforms, just basically like you were, maybe not to the same extent on YouTube, but basically I don't know where someone originates from, and they all work together. And the other thing, quick example, there was someone in the chat who said, basically they were like, this is boring, I'm going to go watch another video about early WordPress mistakes. So YouTube, I love everyone who's watching right now. And if you're listening to any point of this, I'm not talking about you, but YouTube has a short attention span. There's some dumb people on YouTube that watch and they comment and they ask dumb questions, and that's just the way it is. I don't know where they're at. They're probably teenagers or something. And sure, again, no one that's listening now, I just want to emphasize that. I can't emphasize it enough. I appreciate the support, everyone that has liked and subscribed, but people are impatient. There's a million distractions. On the podcast, the connection is so much deeper, and that's probably why you love broadcasting. I mean, I listened to talk radio like all through as a weird kid, right? Like middle school, high school, college talk radio.
Yeah, so did I.
Just like, it's like we're oddballs. So I totally get it. And, we actually off the record, I won't reveal any of our private conversations, but we had a call and I was like, dude, we got to, like, your podcast is something, like, you got to keep it rolling in some capacity. And I hope I could convince you now that you're so close by, like, we could do something, make it easier, make it fun. Maybe we just drink and talk shit.
It's also not, I think that was what part of the problem was. I tried to make it easier. I am not a guy who likes doing easy things. I like putting effort into things and being proud of those things. And what's worrisome about like if you look at, I don't know why I'm comparing myself to this example, but I thought about Jon Stewart and The Daily Show, where it's like, if you look at The Daily Show, it's amazing. Like in he's done now. It's over. It's this time capsule of like the show. Everyone's like, how amazing was that run? At the moment, everyone's like, how amazing is this thing happening right now? But I don't think you could go back and say, like, this episode is everything. It's amazing. And not every episode had the same, like, gravitas as the one before it. But if you look at, like, a television show, like a short, like, even the one that just came out, The Queen's Gambit, where, like, every episode is, like, perfectly crafted because there's only, like, 10 or 13 of them. It's like, I don't know. I just felt like, because of podcasting I don't believe in doing like a seasonal podcast. Like, I think it has to be weekly. That's what I want to listen to, is like a weekly show, but it doesn't have the same like craftsmanship. It is something that you have to kind of like create the box, you create the format, and then you just deliver, right? You get on camera, you have your paperwork, and you just like read the news. It's like it's just that kind of thing. And then you're on a schedule, right? Because then you're like, you have to produce a thing, you have to get it out, and then it's a never-ending cycle. If you get on this hamster wheel of, I never get to stop if I want this thing to continue. Like I can stop and be Jon Stewart and you have this thing, but like no one goes back and watches old Daily Show because it's not relevant anymore. It doesn't make any sense. It's a moment in time. And like I did this, I'm doing videos for YouTube for Brew Cabin and for Swim University and hopefully for Money Lab one day. And I have done stuff for Money Lab. I want those pieces to feel timeless. I want to work on something for like 2 weeks and be like, this is a timeless thing that like it's more evergreen. And I don't know, that's just kind of the way I'm thinking about it. And I'm trying to do something different with YouTube, which is I don't want to do a YouTube like every week. I got to put out something because like that's what YouTube demands of you. You look at somebody like Bill Wurr, who puts out like History of the World, and it took him a year to make that video, and he wins everything. And that video's got like he's forever like the king of his craft. Like he's just like he gets that. He has that piece that he did, and he doesn't make any money at it, which is crazy. But I think there's a balance. I think you could do a mix of both, and that's what I'm going to attempt with Brew Cabin. We'll see, and it's a little bit what we're doing with Swim University. So,
Right on. And how are you on time? Can we go long today? What's your next thing? Okay.
There is no next thing. Lifestyle business.
This is it. Yeah, we're drinking. So yeah, it could go on. I'll have to call my wife for reinforcement. It's like, hey, bring me another can here. So I'm gonna derail a little bit, but I want to come back to a lot of the stuff that we're talking about. So your new YouTube course. Can you tell us a little bit about it? There's a link in the description. Who's it for and what can they expect from it?
Okay. It's called YouTube for Bloggers, which is a branding thing because my first course was called Asana for Bloggers because it was literally how to use Asana to run a blog. And then I've sort of, since I run a blog, I run an authority site, a niche site, whatever you want to call it. This is called YouTube for Bloggers because it's a branding play, but also we sort of tailored it to if you have an authority site and if you have an existing website, not that you need one, but if you do, this is our blueprint for how we built our Swim University channel and how the channel has become a supplement, in some respects, its own arm of Swim University. And you can certainly take the course if you're just thinking about starting a YouTube channel and you have no other online assets. It goes into a lot of the production, the scheduling, the monetization right out of the gate. That's kind of our big thing was, if we're going to start a YouTube channel, how do we make money right away and not have to wait to be a part of like an ad network or whatever? So it's our blueprint for how we built the Swim University channel and how we're making really good money with not a lot of subscribers. But again, it's really, and it's actually our biggest course and our longest course, and we try to take a lot of perspectives. If you're just doing YouTube or you have a blog or you have like a small blog and you want to start something, I think that it's starting a YouTube channel for Swim University was something I've always wanted to do, and I have done over the years, but never consistently, never like really paid attention to it. But in my heart of hearts of like all the things I wanted to do, we focused a lot on the writing, but at the end of the day, I was like, I want Swim University to have every single article that we publish should have a video attached to it, should have graphics attached to it. Like it's a multimedia experience being on Swim University. And I always neglected video for so long. Like I did it and it worked great. And then it's hard. So we were like, oh, the writing's easier and it's, whatever. But now that we have a rhythm, we've kind of treated Swim University or the YouTube, channel as like it's kind of its own thing, but it works in tandem. Thank you, like a bicycle, like in tandem with the actual website. And now, for me, Swim University feels like a very complete machine, and YouTube is like just exploding as far as revenue is concerned, and traffic and SEO and like that is. I mean, I'm so kind of upset with myself for knowing that I wanted to do YouTube for so long, but not actually pulling the trigger until like last year, really kind of like focusing on it. Yeah. So I'm like,
we chatted on that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, all right. And then, so what we've done what the course is basically like our blueprint, and our blueprint is like we are a machine when it comes to YouTube. Like every week, a video goes out. It is like well branded, just and it's like well monetized, and it just keeps growing. And it's SEO. It's really helped our website as a from an SEO from a Google SEO standpoint. It has helped our website tremendously. So it is just like, yeah, it's just like a lifting all boats sort of situation.
If you want to see some of Matt's work that I think is amazing, check out the first video for Brew Cabin out there where
Mm.
he's building his brewery. So this popped up on my feed and I watched it. It
Did it really
was
pop up on your feed?
I think I may have been subscribed. I can't
Okay.
remember. I think it might have, but it's awesome. So you can see his work and like it's a different style of video than the
Yeah.
typical one from Swim University, but it's one that homebrewers will like really appreciate. So one thing, I'm going to open another beer. I finally got the Pilsner here.
Nice.
So cheers, Matt. One thing I'm
Cheers.
going to
All right.
throw in is a bonus. All right. So if you purchase this is ongoing, by the way. So in the future, if
Oh,
someone watches or hears this, I didn't clear this with Matt, so hopefully you'll approve this. If you buy the course through my affiliate link and I can, send me the receipt, we'll verify it. Basically, I'll do a 15-minute teardown critique of your channel once you have 10 videos loaded. So I'll watch the videos
nice.
and give you some feedback. So is that cool, Matt? Is that all right with you?
Hell yeah.
All right.
That's a great
So
idea.
yeah. So bonus, I've done a lot of videos as well. Love YouTube. It's kind of one of my primary focuses. So you mentioned, Matt, like you may be doing a little more Money Lab YouTube as well, or is it kind
I
of
am I am trying to figure out what that is. I actually asked my audience and asked, people to kind of give me feedback on what it is that's missing from the online entrepreneur sort of space that I would be like a really like fresh, you know, look into. I don't know what that is because I mean a lot of the stuff that I learn is from other like online entrepreneurs, specifically from YouTube, because I am somebody who consumes YouTube more than like any other, network. There's all these different styles of video, which is what we talk about in the course, like how to do different types of videos. I don't know what's missing and what I think I would be really good at and what I'd be uniquely good at. I think that's the kind of the thing. It's like, because I can do what, I could do the talking head, I could do the animation, I could do the, like screencast. I can do all that stuff. That's really easy for me, but it doesn't feel unique. It feels like that's what everyone does. So like, why listen to me? Like, why am I, why does that matter? What, with the podcast, I felt we were doing something kind of different where it was more like, unfortunately, like it hampered its growth, but like the idea that like we're talking inside baseball and we're not trying to help anybody. We're just trying to talk about our own thing and like what's really going on behind the scenes emotionally and like strategically. And I think that really hurt us in a way because it's like it's not relatable. For YouTube, I've had ideas like people told me I should do like over the shoulder, like just build something and real, and show it, or, maybe take a lot of the things that I've built or plan on building. Like I built a course in 7 days and I have a whole article about it. Well, what if there was like a documentary of that, like an actual video version of like how I did it, even if I had to recreate it, falsely, I could still like make something that's a different type of like content that's already been done, but just put it in video format and make it something interesting and entertaining. And that's kind of like what I'm doing with Brew Cabin. So I might, if that works out for me, which so far it has, and even if it doesn't, I kind of like doing it anyway. So
yeah.
it's like I'll
Well, I
find my
think
space.
right, and I think you hit on a key thing where you have to look at your goals, and I encourage everyone to do this as well, but you can create videos that have like a little more mass appeal that
Mm-hmm.
maybe will go a little more viral. It won't just identify with your audience, but as the algorithm expands out and it's introduced to more people, it can like catch fire. And some of
Yeah,
the stuff that you and I talk about, they're so inside baseball, they're so deep in the weeds, no one knows what the fuck we're talking about. So it's like
yeah,
only for people like us, which is kind of cool because then it like frees you from having to pander to the masses. You could just talk to the people that are like your kind of people. So I think that's what
Yeah.
you're trying to do, but it's a tough thing to balance because you see other people growing. You're like, man, that
Yeah.
person is not doing as good a content, or we
Right.
all like judge ourselves so harshly and think we should do more, even when we're doing just fine.
Right. And yeah, I mean, that's certainly true. And I still feel that way sometimes. I would like I'm constantly trying to think about my lifestyle. And when people say how good the brew cabin video is, like that was a lot of time and effort. And I don't feel the pressure of like having to follow that up because I felt like I put out something that I'm proud of and I feel good. Like I feel good. It's not making any money, but I feel good about it. And my next piece will be good because I want that same feeling again. And I feel like if I keep chasing that feeling of everything that I put out into the world should feel good, even if it's a how-to article in Swim University, like it should feel like I really tried. I really, really tried. You know, I went beyond what was expected of me, and even if when I used to work, I used to do that all the time. I used to kind of go above and beyond because not because I wanted praise from my boss, but because it made me I could sleep better at night. Because I tried really hard. And even if it failed, like, man, let's go back and look at everything that I did because I feel good about it. As much as the rap album that I did in 30 days failed by all accounts, it's the thing I cite as like the thing I'm most proud of, in my online business life is I took 30 days and I wrote 12 songs and I recorded 12 songs and I made CDs and I'd make CDs. I made t-shirts and I put out an album. And it was like that exists. It's there.
Cool.
You can download it. You can listen to it. It's real. It's on Spotify. It just feels very cool. Yeah.
And the key thing here, like over and over, like you finish shit. And a lot of people, myself included, it's really easy to start things and bail before it's time, maybe not even finish. And a lot of people, actually, I'm pretty good at completing things, so I haven't done this in a long time, but a lot of people will have a wake behind them of 80%, 95% finished things, and you can't do anything with a 95% finished car that doesn't have like the tire. Like you need the fourth tire. You need it. So
I've
finished
done a few
stuff.
of those. There's a few. There's one thing that kind of bums me out that I haven't finished. That's just still there. It's still there, and I still want to do it. So I have this like challenge on Money Lab called SEO Impossible. And have you seen that? I have the whole like blueprint on like what it is I'm gonna do. I just haven't pulled the trigger in like finishing that, and it bums me out. Maybe it's a thing for 2021. I don't know. Maybe it's a perfect thing for a YouTube video to start out because I feel like that would be an awesome YouTube video to see that start to finish.
Yeah, and for the people that don't know, I mean, basically, you were trying to rank #1 for affiliate marketing. Is that right?
Yeah, before that it was email marketing, but yeah, it's affiliate marketing. Like trying to rank #1 for an impossible keyword by pulling out every trick I have, not spending any money, just every trick that every little trade that I'm good at, graphic design, website design, video, a little bit of coding, just like everything.
But you don't build links, and you got to build links to rank #1, right?
Well, that was I mean, look, if I can do it, right? If I can build this thing that's amazing and I can, send out a tweet and people are like, what the hell? This is absolutely insanely amazing. Then won't everybody link to it? And what if, so the whole thing is, if I can prove that it doesn't take backlinks to rank #1, and it may, just because I don't build them doesn't mean I don't believe in them. I mean, they definitely help. And I it's like if everything I published, I had a backlink building strategy, I would be way better off and I would be faster where I am now. But I wait for them to come organically and then here I am. But with SEO Impossible, the idea is that it's impossible. It's impossible to rank for affiliate marketing. How do you do that? Like, how do you beat the top person there? I'm doing it through sheer content alone. And if I'm right, obviously it's like an unattainable goal for a lot of people because I have like a robust skill set. And you could argue it would cost somebody who didn't have my skill set like a ton of money to produce something like that. So it would be like an impossible task, but that's the whole point. And it would just you know, I think it would be so fascinating, even if I got on the first page. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
it's still like, okay, so it's possible to have nothing, you know, because you'd have to start with like a site that you just bought the domain name. You know, I could cheat and be like, it's on moneylab.co, and then that has like, you know, thousands of backlinks already for years that I've had the site. Or I could start a brand new site from nothing, create one post, and will it actually, you know, I think
that's a tough one. Yeah, and I mean,
I think it's fascinating no matter the outcome, right? It's like,
I think well, and that's the thing, the cool part, and someone mentioned that would be a great Money Lab video.
yeah,
Basically, the cool thing with YouTube, and there are channels that like started and or they are based on 30-day challenges of whatever it is. There
yeah,
are many of them. And the thing is, like, even if it doesn't work, you at least
have a
documented
story,
it, you talked through it, you got the
right?
story. Yeah. So, and I think the key with like, I'm just thinking like, oh, how would you do it without, because it would take forever to build the backlinks manually. You would have to
Mm-hmm.
go on like a campaign of like podcast and YouTube and like lean on your fame, Matt. Like,
Which
hey, I
would be
want to be on your
unfair.
show. Yeah,
Yeah,
it would be unfair, but it's like, all right, like it's generally impossible, right? Like I don't even know who's ranking number one
I
or on the
think it's
first
Neil
page.
Patel. So I don't think it's impossible. I think it's so that's like truly, I believe it's possible, and I believe that somebody can outdo him and outdo anybody that's up there. I just think it takes. I don't think it takes promote. I mean, obviously there's promotion, but I think you have to do. So my whole thing is, and this is again, this is the homebrewing video as an example. Like it's like an over delivery strategy. I looked at that video and I was like, I could just do a vlog like Casey Neistat where it like has lo-fi music and I'm, you know, telling just a general story and I'm talking into a camera. But in my head, I'm like, I hate that style of video. And everyone's just gonna be like, oh, you're just doing Casey Neistat. You're just doing what every other YouTuber does. And so I tried to push, you know, and there's definitely elements of that because that's how I filmed it. So I had no other choice but to do that. But there are elements of like documentary, like tactics that I took from certain, like there's actually two movies that I just talked about. There's just two movies that are, that I didn't steal, but the ideas came from those movies to incorporate in the video, which one of them is the country song that's in the middle of the video, just which no one would ever suspect when you started watching it. But like all of a sudden, there's this fucking country song, and it's a silly parody. But I got the idea from Team America, where like they just sing a song like "Freedom Isn't Free," and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
that song cracks me up, and I was like, and I don't know why I remembered it, but I was like, oh. Wouldn't it be funny if, like, just in the middle of this video, it just went into like a country montage for no, like, just a sad moment of like, you know, a country song. And so like I wrote it and I put it in there, but then I had to come up with like, why does this happen? Like, why is this in there? And then that was the whole, like, I have this conversation with the plumber that doesn't exist. And so like, that was that the idea of the visual of that came from Pop Star, the movie with the Lonely Island guys. There's a scene where they're being attacked by bees, or there's this giant killer bee, and yeah, and they just put the words on the screen, and they don't actually show what's happening because it's an insanely over budgeted thing that they were doing. It's funny. It's a funny bit, but it just gave me the satisfaction to be like, oh, I don't have to like actually film anything. I could put this on screen, which is something I could do in my basement, and it would work. Like it would make sense. So yeah, I just wanted to create this like delight and surprise and kind of go above what people thought from like a video like this. So what I want to happen is you watch this video because a guy builds a home brewery in 40 days or whatever, because you want to learn something, and then you watch it and you're like, what? That was not what I expected it to be. That was like, it was like a level above, and I feel like that's a hard thing to do, but it's a really fun thing to think about. And if you can do it and pull it off, I mean, like anybody who watches that video, I hope comes away like, I like this. I'm a fan. And whatever comes next, like I want more of it, and I think you just can't buy that kind of thing, right? Like, and I'm not going to get a lot of people because, it's very niche. It's a very like specific thing. But if I can win you over like in one video, I mean, and I have to keep doing that. But but I can take my time because I feel like it's like when you watch the history of the world or the history of Japan or like the Mount St. Helens, video, like you watch that, you're like, this is unbelievably amazing. You share it with everybody, whether they like music or not, whether they live near St. Helens or not. Like it's just that good. And it takes them, months, if not years, to produce shit like that. And he goes down into the annals of history of like being like the YouTuber that every other YouTuber looks up to.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he makes no money at it. So that's a very specific example.
And I'm gonna have to look. I don't even know what you're talking about, so I'm gonna have to look it up.
No,
So, no,
you've never seen History of the World.
no. And I was gonna say YouTube's so big that it's like there can be some massive, like a cultural thing, like it sounds like you're talking about, and I don't even know
Mm,
what you're talking about. So,
yeah, it actually might be like the most popular video on YouTube ever.
yeah,
I don't, yeah.
I don't
Can you
even
can
know.
you even look that up anymore? Can you look up like, remember I used to look up like lifetime, like best, like the most popular videos on YouTube ever made ever? Like it used
I
to
don't
have like they
know.
used to have like a
Yeah,
filter. I don't think they do anymore.
maybe not. I was thinking a couple things, but I totally forgot them. So I do want to
Sure.
ask you about, you mentioned you started that process, and a couple people mentioned in here that Neil Patel, BigCommerce, Ahrefs, Wikipedia, Shopify, Forbes rank for affiliate marketing. So definitely a big thing. But have you had any periods in the last, say, 18 months or so where you're like, that was a mistake. I should have done this differently? Because you sound, kind of bulletproof, and I'm interested and other people want to know, like, all right, what issues have you had?
Oh, I mean, I left a software company, like
All
just
right,
walked away.
let's talk about that. Yeah, because the last time you were on, we were talking about Lasso, and I'm using that on
Yeah.
one of my sites. I like to test a lot of different products. So I'm using Lasso on one of my newest sites. So yeah, what's up
Hmm.
with that? Why'd you leave?
Lifestyle choices. So what happened was the truth about what happened was I moved into this new house, and it was something that it's been like a lifelong goal of mine to like own a house with a yard because I owned a condo but it didn't have a yard, and so I finally was able to do it, and it just was a lot of work. It was a lot of work to basically I don't know. It was a lot of work to move here, and if I was working a 9 to 5 job, I probably would have taken off a week just to do this because it was just like setting everything up and fixing things, and there's just a lot. I did, and when I moved into my house the first time, that's exactly what I did. Took a week off of work and like change light fixtures and paint it and whatever you have to do. What happened during that time was I wasn't working on Lasso, and Lasso definitely demands time because you have to be in the customer service. You have to answer questions. You have to be constantly building and improving things. You have to be constantly producing You can't just be a software company. You have to be a media company too because you have to promote the thing. And there was this demand of time. I had dedicated a year and a half ish to Lasso. Doing a lot of the coding work on the back end, not a lot of it, but like a lot of the front end coding work. The design of it, the website, and then like we tried to hire somebody for customer service, and it didn't really work out. So I had to get back into customer service, and we were just trying to figure. So there was a lot of like hats that we were wearing, that I was wearing, and Andrew was wearing, and it just it demanded all of my time. It just was. And so when I went to move, I felt the entire week, I felt this like pull of, this thing needs me and I can't be there, or like I kind of don't want to be there for it because it's just I don't know. And it was, and to Andrew, it was seemed very clear that like I wasn't interested anymore. Like I just didn't have the fire anymore. I didn't feel like I wanted this to be what I worked on. Because again, like I love building things. I love putting craft into something. The thing I try not to do is maintenance it. So like what's great about doing a YouTube video which, obviously is not a product. But doing a YouTube video, or no, I should say like doing YouTube for bloggers, like building a course, it has a completion date. It is a product. I will be able to market that on Money Lab for the next 4 years, without like very little updates, if any, unless YouTube changes some weird thing. But like, it feels like a very complete thing, and I had full control over all of it. Like, I am it's what I do. Whereas like with software, I was kind of at the mercy of like, if I needed something to be done and I wasn't capable of doing it, I would always try to do it and then fail and get stressed out. And then I would have to like rely on Andrew to do it for me, or have a developer come in and do it. And it just felt like a clunky process. And then it's like, and it's a hamster wheel of like, I will be constantly forever working on this. And if I'm not the one constantly forever working on this, I will be constantly forever managing someone else to work on this. And again, it did not fit what I wanted once I moved into this place, which was like, I want to be able to go homebrew in the middle of a Wednesday and not have to worry if my business is going to like fail, or if people are like banging down my doors because something's broken or not working, or it just wasn't for me. And it took me a while to learn it, but I enjoyed and I love the building aspect of it. Like, I got really into like getting the product to where it is and getting the branding to be cohesive and getting it all set up. But then once it was set up, I kind of just was like, all right, I'm done. Oh my God, now people are complaining, and people need this feature and that feature. And like, I'm like, this sucks. I did it. What more do you want from me? And that's just my personality. It's not that, obviously that is the game, right? And I don't fault it for being what it is. It just didn't fit what I wanted in life anymore. It doesn't have the same, like, Swim University is great because I built 4 products. People love them. My return rate is very low. And when I put out a piece of content, it does well. I get great feedback, and I don't have to work on it ever. It's like, I put out a piece of content, like, I did it. I nailed it. Like, it's great. I may have to tweak things here and there, but like, nothing that I don't know I know how to write. I know how to, make a thing. So it's a totally different type of work. And once I got the thing that I'm good at done, it felt like, I have to keep maintenance this thing forever. And I have to, in order to make money and feel this sort of tug at like, this thing needs you all the time. It's like a baby that never grows up. And I don't like that. And I didn't realize it until later, unfortunately. But yeah, it was a very profitable business, and I was, and it's probably going to make a ton of money. But mental health more important.
Indeed. And I think, one thing was sort of embedded in your answer is software kind of sucks until like version 2 or 3 or 4. And it's an iterative thing that you have to figure out. And you guys were on version 1, I think, when I started using it. And then I think, did you guys push version 2 like over the summer? Is that right?
Yeah. I think back in June or July. Yeah.
And I used to do software project management. And what I don't want to do is use a beta version or the first version generally, because I want a solution to my problem, not a thing where I could help you improve it. I don't really care. Like, I treat the software as commodities, and if it doesn't do the job, like, I'm out. I'm not interested in giving you feedback, really. And I was going to say some of the tickets were for me, because I was like, dude, why can we not do this? This is a basic thing. So those came in for me, and because I was in software, I'm probably more of a ball buster than most people would be.
Right. And so as a creative, sensitive man, I take every piece of feedback as a jab. It's like, you fucked up. Fix this now. And I'm like, damn it. It's not. I don't have that like part of my brain where I can turn off like not taking it personally. I take everything personally. So it's like, if you don't like my homebrewing video, at this point, I'm okay, because I've not gotten any negative feedback, but like that one negative feedback is going to hurt. It really is. And so it's like, and it's not something I can help because it's just how I'm designed. But, so so I know that, and I'm self-aware enough to understand that. And so I have to pick things that, like, for example, the one thing that I felt such relief, and there are so many ways to go about this, but Intercom is the software that we used to answer questions. So there's a little speech bubble, and if you're in the software, you pop it up, you can like answer questions. And we had tried to hire somebody to do that, and I thought it was working great because I was just like completely hands off, and that person was taking care of it. But then there was talk that like it felt very inauthentic, that there was not somebody really there helping you, and it felt like robotic. And I don't necessarily agree with that, but I get it, and I understand how it feels to be in customer service or to deal with somebody in customer service, and they actually do care, and it feels like really great. And it's like, oh, I love this product because someone's there and they're like actually trying to help me. And so we could have spent the money to hire somebody to do that, but I felt that we should do it because we needed to learn the software and we needed to understand our customers. And I felt there was a lot of benefit to that, and I still believe that. The problem is that icon in my toolbar was something that I haven't had this feeling in a long time. This feeling, it's the same feeling I used to have when I was broke and I had a checking account and I was nervous. Like I had physical reaction to clicking that just to make is there any money in that account? Is it zero? Is it negative? Because I was always worried it was going to be negative, and I had an overdraft balance of $35 and I have to pay, and how many days, so there was like a stress factor of just clicking a button on your computer. And that was Intercom for me. Like the number of emails, I'm like, oh, if it was like anything over 5, I'm like, I have to process these. I have to read people like not liking something and I always took it from a personal, like, this person hates what I built, not this person is just trying to help. And so like that moment, like to constantly have that as a part of my life sucked. It's not very lifestyle, it's just not for me. So it was like, I'm the worst person to be in customer service. I shouldn't be there, but there was a benefit of me being there, which ultimately led to, I probably shouldn't be in this industry because, I clearly can't, I don't have thick enough skin to deal with this. But for some reason at Swim University, at Money Lab, like I am in total control of the product. I put it out. I know it's completely up to me to make it great. And if something's not great, I know exactly how to fix it, and I can fix it in 2 seconds. With software, it was like it took a long time for like somebody like complained about something to it actually being solved, like multiple weeks. And that doesn't sit with me because that's all that stuff like remains in my brain space. And it's just like, fix it. And I'm one person that's like, if there's a problem, go fix it, get it done, and then move on with your life, or find a way to like satiate it and move on. So the industry just did not fit with me. And I'm, and yes, I walked away from a lot of potential earnings, but that's not really what drives me. It's like, I'm making good money now. I don't need more good money. I have it. So, I could be making great money, but it's like, what else am I going to get? I'm not going to buy a helicopter. I'm afraid of heights. So why would I buy a helicopter?
And I had a similar situation in service-based businesses. So also pretty lucrative. It's a great business because you could immediately start selling and doing things for your clients and basically run an agency. And I realized exactly what you mentioned. Basically, you fast forward, hey, if this is successful in 12 to 18, 36 months, what does it look like? And if it looks like you hate it, then you need to bail immediately. So you figured out early enough where you could get out before it was like, golden handcuffs and detrimental.
Yeah. And I always wanted, it's funny because I felt at one point, I'm like, wouldn't it be great if we sold this to Automatic or some other like WordPress, plugin company and like cash out? Like that would be great. And I was the only one who thought that, and I was like, uh-oh, like that's not a good sign that I'm like already looking for a buyout, and I'm like, and Andrew did not see that at all. He was like, no, this is what I'm going to be working on. Like, but he that's what he does software. Like that's what he's interested in. Like he loves that world. Whereas like when it comes to video, I love that world and I love writing in a little bit, but like building a website, I like video, I like creating, like I like content stuff. And I feel like that was our sort of like, well, he's really good at software, I'm really good at content, and that's where we're going to come together and, fill in those weak points.
Right.
And yes, that's exactly what happened, except I don't know. I am so, it's so deeply tied into who I am as a person that I have a hard time separating it. So yeah, it just wasn't for me, unfortunately.
Got it.
But yeah, I've walked away from that and other software companies. This is not the first one. I've done Spruce. I walked away from. I walked away from Earnest, which eventually became Lasso. I started a social network for dogs at one point that fell apart. Yeah,
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
yeah. Roasty. I sold that.
Right on. Well, the other thing is around, and actually, we are going to answer some questions. So if people have questions, feel free to ask in the chat
Yeah,
here, and we'll hit them. When I saw that you walked away from Lasso, and you can skip this if you don't want to talk about it. But like, how did that process go? Where you're like, hey, you know what? I'm sort of checked out. I'm not interested. It sounds like Andrew kind of could see that by your actions and
yeah,
how much you were into it. You guys know each other well. So how did that
yeah.
work? How did you do it?
I think that was the best part. It was so we had a falling out many years ago over the List of Money Matters podcast. So and then we reconnected, and we're both of us had evolved as human beings and we're more self-aware, and anything that was ever like kind of an issue, we would work it out over Skype or whatever because we just were aware of each other. And that was the best part of the exit, which was he knew it before I did. He knew. I told him I had felt bad about not, like for 8 days I was working on the house and not really like, I just did not want to click the intercom button. I didn't want to go into intercom. I told him about it, and he was like, I'm happy to buy you out if you want to get out of this. I completely understand. And I had not been thinking of that, but I was like, I was like, you know what? Let me think about that. I talked to Steph. I talked to my parents. I just talked to like myself, in the mirror, and just was like, am I going to feel better, or am I going to feel FOMO? Like, do I have FOMO? Is that something that like I've had in the past? That like, am I jealous of other people? Like of projects that I've left before? And it was like this wrestling, like, you know, am I going to feel relief or am I going to feel regret? And I had to make a gamble on what feeling I was going to have, and maybe not even a gamble. I had to like choose which one I decided I was going to do, and I chose relief. And I am, like it was so amicable. It was like an amicable, like, okay, and he was like, I get it, man. I get it. He's like, I know you, probably better than I even know myself because he sees it from a different perspective. And so it was just like, yeah, this is not for you. I get it. Like, we're still friends. Like, this is not and I was like, well, am I going to, yeah. And so I chose relief because it's like, I never have to go into intercom again. And that is the greatest feeling ever, and I use Lasso on all my sites. So it's not something I'm like actively not going to promote anymore. It's not, I don't have any like, interest in the company. I have no, I'm completely out of it. It's completely Andrew's. I'm still an affiliate, but that's about it. Just like you and anybody else. So, and I use the software and I love the software. I mean, I built it, I helped build it. So, I have no hard feelings. He has no hard feelings.
That's
And
good.
it's a relief not to like have to worry about it anymore and feel like obligated to work on it, which is great. I can focus on other things, like the things I already have, nothing crazy.
And this actually fits in pretty good. So you were able to, walk away from some projects that you didn't want to work
Yeah.
on. You were also able to downscale some other things. And in the post, the lifestyle business manifesto, you mentioned retiring in 3 years. So you're
Yeah.
37 now. You were like,
Uh,
hey, I'm going to do it when I'm 40. So yeah, can you take us through that? I mean, basically, a lot of us follow like the 4% rule and you're financially
Yeah.
independent and you have the option to, quote, retire, but really it just means you don't have to do things for money actively. Like you're okay. So, yeah,
Yeah.
tell us about that. You got 3 years. What's the thought process behind it all?
Basically just hoarding money. Just like any money that we make from the business. Like I have 3 years to really like, make as much as I can. And but after 3 years, I'm not gonna try as hard anymore. And I'm just gonna do what I want to. I mean, I kind of am there now, in a way, but I want to have enough money put away where I could coast out the rest of my existence and I don't and it doesn't need to. I'm not talking about like a lavish, lifestyle or anything, but like I just want to be able to like not work for an entire year. When I say that, I'm like, I'll just brew beer and ship it to like my friends for an entire year, and that's my job. Or like I'm gonna go make a documentary that has nothing to do with anything, and or go make an album for my own fun. Like I could do all those things now, and I plan to, but I just right now I feel like if I'm not working on the company, it's just gonna it'll do this and it'll start to slowly do that the longer I don't actively do anything. I want to keep it going like this, perhaps going up, and then at 40 I want to just let it sort of coast out, and then just collect whatever is left at the end, have enough money to basically live out my existence. And of course, that probably like I want that ability. I'm not necessarily saying I'm going to do that, but I
Yeah.
just want to feel like I could at 40. Like I can let this all, like I can walk away from some university. I probably won't, but I
Right.
could, you know?
And actually, you're leading me to a question that I wanted to ask, but it actually fits in better here.
Mm.
You sounded very attached to University because you've been working on it for so long. It's your baby. And you're talking about working for 3 more years. And basically, you could sell SwimU. The fact is,
Mm-hmm.
you have a diverse set of revenue. So it's not just an affiliate revenue. You have your own products and you have a
Yeah.
YouTube channel that's
Yeah.
awesome. And you could sell it for a much higher multiple than the standard that's out there.
Yeah.
So why not
I
sell
won't.
it, get those
No,
3 years of revenue, and then you got
no.
your problem solved? Like I don't why wouldn't you not do that?
Legacy.
Go on.
That's it. I look at Roasty as as a website that I built and sold, and they took that site and made it just just a juggernaut in traffic. Like it just exploded. And I'm still in touch with the guy who I sold it to, and I was like, how that, like I am not jealous at all because I wasn't willing to do the work that he did to make it that great. How did you do it? He goes, and he said to me straight up, like, you did most of the work. Like the foundation was great, and all I did was like what everyone does, and it just straight up like rocket shipped. It is not the same site anymore. It is not the site that I set out to build in the coffee industry. Is not what I wanted. It's a different thing. I have the Swim University I am very proud of. It's a very clean, it's a very like good site. I am well respected in the industry. I feel like kind of, and starting to get even more respect when people figure out that it's just one guy. I want that to remain. I want Swim University to be a resource that if somebody like I'm afraid that someone's going to buy it and they're just going to like, you know, fill it with ads and fill it with like, junky, clunky, just promoting products that suck and and then just making ugly images and just making it look junkier because that's what happens, like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not going to be another, creative person buying it. It's going to be another business owner who's adding to his portfolio or her portfolio, whatever. I worry about that. And I don't want that for Swim University. I don't, and probably for Brew Cabin as well, only because I'm so they're so close to me. Coffee was never something as a passion. I've never been that passionate about it. I do love coffee. I do drink coffee, and I do like making great coffee, and I do spend money on coffee. But it is not something I'm like deeply passionate in, or is tied to me as a, like, no one goes like, oh, Matt, he just loves this. He's such a coffee guy. He loves his coffee. All he fucking talks about is coffee, coffee, coffee. I'm not. It's just part of. It's just something I like. It's like, if I like tuna fish, but I'm not going to start a website on tuna fish recipes. Like, I'm just, so it was something that, like, and it was an experiment when I first started it in like, can I take everything I've learned about Swim University over the last 10, 15 years and apply it to a completely different industry and build something quicker? And I was able to do that. I proved it to myself. I proved it to the people who were following me at Money Lab, and I sold it. And, people were upset at me for selling it because they're like, I would have bought it. Like, I would have made it great, and I would have done this. And, why you sold it. And, some other guy made a ton of money off of it. I'm like, great. Because it was the thing I wasn't willing to do. It wasn't why I started it. So, yeah, I don't have any regrets over selling that. I needed the money at the time because I was in a lot of debt from mistakes that I had made in my business. And I wasn't in love with the site anymore. And it's like, it's very easy to walk away from something that, like, I'm not going to work on it, but if somebody wants to work on it, I'm sure they're going to do well with it. And of course, like, just unbelievably well with it.
Very good.
Yeah.
And with SwimU, you just have like a deeper connection, and you don't want to see it trampled upon.
It feels very like a part of me. Yeah. It's my face is on like every thumbnail. My face is all over that site. It is very, and it's just something I've been doing since I was 13 years old. So it's just like, it feels very personal. Yeah. So it'll be with me forever. It will never be sold.
That's kind of cool because I don't feel that connection with my stuff. And a couple weeks ago, someone asked me like, "Oh, would you sell Niche Site Project?" Which I'm all over that and the channel. Yeah. And I mean, my branding is all mixed up, but I'm like, maybe, I don't know. Like, I have a price. I don't know what it is, but I'm sure someone could find it.
Yeah, it's same with Money Lab. Like, I don't think anybody would want to buy it because it's so it's basically MattGiovanisci.com. It's a me site. But if somebody wanted to buy it, I'd be like, no, like that's insane. Like, what are you gonna, like, you're the one in charge of my rap album? Like, absolutely not. But Brew Cabin, right as it stands right now, I could sell it and I would be okay with it because it doesn't feel mine. Like, none of the content feels mine. But over the next, as I start working on it more and more, I plan on incorporating myself and my taste and my belief system into the site and making it more about me as a brewer and my philosophies. Then I'm going to make that site become my thing. And so those 3 sites are going to be very much tied to me, and they're not going to be for sale.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, we definitely need to do maybe a monthly tasting where we like do a YouTube video, we drink some beer. So maybe we could start up in January. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
We could clarify off the air, but I mean, it's easy enough for us to do it. It looks like we could drink in that room there and sit far apart from each other. I mean, you get the brewery. Oh yeah. Though.
The brewery, put the garage door up. Yeah. It'll be good airflow.
Right.
Great.
On. So, as we're wrapping up, so you talked retirement for people that are unfamiliar with the either financial independence, and we're actually not going to retire. Like Matt and I will kill. Right, no. We'll still keep doing our whatever it is we're doing.
Yeah,
but
gotta work.
For the people that don't follow along, like what do you need to do to be able to feel confident in stopping work or have the independence and freedom and flexibility to do so?
Money, right? You need to be able to survive. I mean, you can't live in America without money. I mean, that's not true.
the math behind it. So
the math behind it is fairly simple, although it's like it feels very pie in the sky. But let's just take this for example. You have $1 million in a index fund. So I'm not talking about $1 million in a checking account or $1 million in a savings account. I'm talking about $1 million in some sort of like it can be low risk index fund, whether it's with Vanguard or you can do something like Betterment or whatever, but it has to be index funds because otherwise there's different complications. But if you had $1 million in the index fund system in the stock market, what happens is if you extrapolate the stock market over 100 years, you'll notice that like it's been going up all the time. and on average, you'll probably earn around 7 to 12% of your investments safely. Now, obviously, there are times where, like in 2008, in 1981 or 1980, and then like 1939, and like other ones in between, where there's drops. And the thing is that makes sense when it's very short term, which is why you can't just play the stock market. It's not like you're going to Atlantic City and playing the stock market. You have to pull back, and the further you pull back, the more you'll realize that it's on an upslope. Now, if you were to have $1 million currently right now in the stock market, in an index fund or multiple index funds, you could safely withdraw 4% or 3.5% or whatever. But basically, if you assume that you're going to make conservatively 7% over your lifetime, then if you withdrew 4%, that means you would still be earning 3%, which is larger than inflation. Inflation's around 2%, right, every year. So if you can draw 4% on $1 million every year, that's $40,000 a year. So if you can live off $40,000 a year, then if you had $1 million in the bank, you could retire and forever earn $40,000 a year or the equivalent of that as inflation goes up, because you'll be earning more than what inflation is. Now, obviously, there are years where the stock market isn't doing well, and so there will be like these dips and moments where you may not be able to take 40 grand that year, but neither will anybody else. Yeah. And obviously, if you have 2 million, that's 80 grand. If you have 3 million, you do the math.
Yeah.
But if you can, but the whole FIRE movement is this idea that, like, hey, if you can survive on $40,000 now, but you're making 80,000, well, then you could save $40,000 a year, and every single year you save that $40,000 in a matter of like 15 years, you now have $1 million, or whatever. I don't think that math works. I think it's 20 years, but it's possible, So, and then there's obviously like there's real estate, there's other little like avenues. And 7%, that's the conservative, route, of course. If you start a business, you can make 200, 300, 400 millions of dollars a year and still live like a normal person at like $40,000 a year, $50,000 a year, and the rest of that just goes into an account or it gets invested, and you'll be much closer to being able to actually be financially independent, which is, I think, the key words there, instead of retiring early, right? You're basically, what it means is like you are free from having to work for money. The money works for you, and that's how you're paid.
Well said. Well said. And
thank you.
The other way, I mean, the trickiest part of this for most people is figuring out your expenses, like your true expenses. A lot of people don't have a good handle on that. I didn't until I got married, and my wife is a lot more budget oriented.
Yeah.
Not that I went out and like blew money, but I was just like,
sure,
kind of whatever. And like, so we have it dialed in, and you have a couple wild cards in there, right? If you're paying for healthcare because you're self-employed, or you're thinking, hey, we want to take some big trips, so maybe we're spending, $50K, which is pretty, I mean, that's fairly luxurious for two people the way we live. Do you know what are your expenses if you want to share? You don't have to. Annually, of course.
No, $5,000 a month it cost us to basically, in this new place, for everything, like for utilities, food, car. We have one car that we share, and we never go anywhere. So yeah, it's about 5,000 between the two of us.
Okay, so 60K, which is
60K, yeah.
And I think, I mean, and again, that's fairly, honestly, that's pretty luxurious. Like, we have friends, Matt, who have like a family of 4. They live on less than we do. So we're buying our exotic beers and expensive yeast and ingredients. So, I mean, we have to support all that.
Yeah, I bought a big house, so I'm pretty much paying. That's where most of the money's going, to kind of pay for that. But then the rest of it's like we basically, like, we always eat at home. We don't really go out now. But even if we did, I built a brewery in the house, so I don't have anywhere to go. I brought everything to me. I'm a homebody for sure. Like, even before all this, so I love being home. Like, before COVID, there were weeks where I didn't leave the house, like a whole week where I never even like stepped foot in a car or anything, only because, and then I go, I should probably go outside. I think I've been inside for like too long. I don't feel
you
it.
Stay inside?
Yeah.
See, I'm outside all the time.
Yeah, there was, well, I in where we used to live, it was like right on a highway, so it was like kind of not fun to be outside. And
Yeah.
there's always somebody walking by, and you were like right there, and it's just awkward. So like we'd have the doors open and windows open, but yeah, only because like I like working, I like what I do. It's like a hobby for me, and most of my hobbies besides snowboarding and beer were indoors, and now
Same here,
brewing's
man.
indoors. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think we covered it pretty good. In a disclaimer, someone even mentioned like, "Hey, we sound like financial advisors more than entrepreneurs." And yeah, we're just here for entertainment. We hardly know what we're talking about, so consult your professionals. And
Absolutely not. Do not fuck your professionals. I will say this. Yes, the reason why we sound that way, or at least I'll say the reason why I sound that way is because when I started my business, I was really, really terrible with money. And I knew that if I was going to pursue this lifestyle, that I couldn't be bad with money anymore. And so I read every personal finance book that I could get my hands on to not be bad at this. And then I met somebody who had a personal finance blog, and we started a podcast together that we ran for many years. And I just know, because it's like I don't like not knowing, and I think it's crazy important to be good with money if you're going to start your own business, because it's all you have is yourself to rely on.
yes, and I will say, well, you know, we got one more sponsor, so we got to do some questions here. So I'm gonna put on we got the niche website builders Q&A section here. So they're a sponsor.
All right.
Thank you for sponsoring. They can do content for you. I have 20,000 words coming each month for me. And I have a Shotgun Skyscraper campaign rolling as well. So they've been crushing it. I think I just this morning checked the campaign. I think I got about 37 links over the course of 4.5 months or so. And the average domain rating, as reported by Ahrefs, is around, I think it's 49.6. So when I check the spreadsheet, that is what it was. So we could field some questions now, and if not, we're just going to riff back and forth a little bit. And Matt, I appreciate you
Yeah.
sticking around for so long. I do have a housewarming beer that I snagged for you a while back, but it may be late December or early January before I get it over to you, man.
Sweet. Thank you.
So I'll mention that as far as the financial advisor stuff, I
Uh,
like my wife and I basically fired the people that were working for us once we like started accumulating money, and we were like, hey, wait a second, these people don't know what they're talking about either. So
mhm.
honestly, I wouldn't even trust financial advisors either. They usually have incentives to
Yeah,
sell
it's
you some
unfortunate. Yeah.
garbage, and you don't know because you're thinking, or at least I thought, these are experts, so I trust them to make some decisions. But then I looked, I'm like, this is so complicated in my funds, of which they're like two. It's like the total
Yeah.
bond and total stock
Yep.
market. Like
Little, yeah.
those do better. And Vanguard is where I have most of my stash. And yeah, it's been performing super well. I don't time anything. I don't look at anything. I've just put
Dollar
slowly
cost averaging.
huge amounts of money in over time. And it does give you freedom. And you're like, oh, I can work on the stuff that I want to work on. And I don't have to pander. It feels so good, you know?
So there's a great book that changed my entire perspective on personal finance, and it's I Will Teach You to Be Rich from Ramit Sethi, I believe is how you say his last name. I always get it wrong.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
basically, I think the way I boil that book down is humans are prone to errors and stupidity and emotions and all these other things that are the human flaw, right? But robots are not. And so if you automate and put the robots in charge of your money, it makes you like a savvy investor. And so like for me, that was certainly the truth. And I just started to like have the robots like put 10% away for me, or put like, now there's like, I mean, I use Betterment for all my investment stuff, and that's not true. I also use Robinhood, but I subscribe to the Golden Butterfly, which is a portfolio strategy that is incredibly safe. It's a
What is it?
diversification
I don't know
strategy.
that one.
So it's 5 quadrants of 20% of your investment. So it's large cap stocks, medium cap stocks, small cap bonds, small to medium bonds, and then a commodities of some kind. For me, it's gold. So I have 20% of my investments going into gold, and then I do the split in Betterment for the large cap, small cap bond and stock thing. Basically, it's for me, it's a two-part system. It's Betterment for the stocks and bonds, and then Robinhood just to I put 20% of my like overall investment that I put in towards buying gold shares from I use IAU. I think it's iShares for gold, and that's just like that's the safety net, the little extra that goes into that. And then I have a little bit of play money. Like I bought one share of Apple the other day. Just like I have one share of Tesla. It's like whenever I have like extra money, I'm like, you know,
Yeah.
I'll just buy like individual stocks of companies that I use and appreciate and like. I don't own a Tesla, but I do like what they're eventually going to, hopefully going to do. So, yeah.
Right on. I yeah, and I was gonna say like I think I tried to make things more complex, not gold, but a little more
Yeah.
with the small caps, some growth, some value, blah blah blah. And then when I had to roll some accounts over, and then I just did like total market
Yeah.
stocks, and then total bond market, and simplified it. And then I tried to make it more complicated again, and then
Yeah.
it turns out those were performing less. And I'm not dealing with like 1 or 2 months. Like I'm looking at a couple years, and I'm like,
Right.
simpler is better, and like it's
Simpler,
less
dude. I have
mental
like,
load.
yep, I have a handful of accounts, and I don't want any more than that. And if I,
Yeah.
I try to like just keep like, I have two credit cards, one for business, one for
Yep.
personal,
Same.
and they all now I have I got this. Where is it? What did I do with it? Oh, I got this the wallet on the back of the
Oh,
phone
cool.
because I don't want any. I one day I'm not there yet. This will be the only thing I carry.
All right. Yeah.
I have to have keys because I don't have a smart lock and I don't have a smart car, so I still have to carry
Yeah.
around keys. But that's the goal is to like have one device so that because like in my house now, I leave my keys upstairs, I leave my wallet in the basement, I leave my phone in the bed. It's like I have to like, and then when I want to go out,
All
I'm
over.
like, oh yeah, it's all over the place. I
Where's
gotta look for it.
That's funny, man, because I used to have one of those, and I just had two, like my license and a credit card, and then that was
Yep,
basically it.
yep.
And I didn't carry a wallet anymore. It was great, but I'm surprised like you carry around keys for your car like a peasant. That's crazy, dude.
Yeah,
No, I'm just
how
kidding.
do you not?
No, I'm just kidding.
No,
I
I'm
have
serious.
like I have an F-150 that's like 15 years old, so I don't even have
You have to.
power windows.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to go keyless. That's my next mission for 2021.
It's not a big deal. All right, Vicky has a question for us. What was your biggest learning from Profit First? You're reading it right, or Vicky's reading it right now, and wants to know your
Yeah.
biggest takeaway.
That the whole reason you own a business is to make money for yourself. It's like the whole idea of taking 10% there's different levels of depending what you I take 10% of the earnings from my websites and I put that into a profit account. And also like if you read that book, he like makes you start like 17 different accounts, all different like spots. I don't do any of that. I have a regular checking account, which is my operating expenses account. I have a savings account for tax money, and I have a savings account for profit money. And every month, at the end of the month, he says to do it every 2 weeks. I do it every month. Um, I I go and I do I have a spreadsheet where I like put in how much I made this month from the business, and it auto calculates. Put 10% and 15% for tax, I think, or 20% for tax, and I just allocate those into those places, and then every quarter I pay myself half of the profit. So I'm getting like these big bonuses that are distributions from my company, and I'm like, oh, I'm like actually making more money from the businesses that I started because of this entire process. And I think it sort of like opened my eyes to like, wait, why do you have a business if it's not to like make great money as an individual? It's like, oh yeah, duh. Like I was so busy focused on the growth of the business and I had to reinvest everything into the business to make it grow bigger and bigger. And I'm like, no, it's fine.
You
I
don't
want
have
the
to do
money.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I want to retire.
I've heard of Profit First. I've never read the book, but I think implicitly like design things
Do
that
that.
way
Well, if
because
you come from person, like you have a personal finance mindset, so it's like it is just pay yourself first. It's that whole principle just for business, you know.
yeah, and like I mean, yeah, like shifting. I was on a call earlier today, mastermind, and we are talking about S corps and like tax savings and stuff. And
Yeah.
I think, yeah, just implicitly, or I was steered in some direction, but I heard the author of Profit First on a few podcasts, and I was like, I don't think that's solving a problem I have. Like, I think I'm
Yeah.
pulling plenty of money off, and if anything, I'm not reinvesting enough because I'm a bit of a hoarder
Right.
with money.
And that's the eye opener for me from that book was like, there is a certain amount of money. It's all based on what comes in, and you're forced to allocate that into percentages, and then you're forced to operate your business on a certain percentage. And like that's your budget to operate to like grow your business. Like this is what goes into the business. And no, instead of like taking all of the money like what Amazon does, well, not necessarily, but they take all the money and they like reinvest in the business and they're like not profitable, which is how they avoid taxes every year. And it's like I think, for me, I'm like, and that's the other thing about like, there's all these tax havens. You're taxed. You can get sucked down that world all day. Fine, have fun. Like, no, thank you. Like, absolutely
Yeah,
not. Like, I'd rather just pay taxes and
I
have
pay
like
so much taxes. Yeah.
yeah. It's just like whatever.
Yeah. Okay, so we're at the point in time where a couple of things are going to happen. Number one, Matt's going to tell us where you could find him. I'm going to need you to keep it relatively brief because we've gone so long, Matt. I got to pee. Like I drank two
Oh,
beers
same.
and a bunch of water.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, there's links in the description. But where can people find you?
Moneylab.co and Matt Giovanisci on Twitter.
All right, thanks, Matt. Let's do a post like chat. We'll get on Skype in like 10 minutes or something. Sound
All
good?
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yep, sounds good.
All right. See you, everybody. Thanks for hanging on. Thanks to Vicky, Adrian,
No,
and the crew. Matt, love it, man. See
thank
ya.
you. Appreciate it. Thank you.